Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. It's Monday, January 12th, 2015. It is 7:21 in the evening. We have a quorum. The first item on our agenda is approval of regular meeting minutes of December 8th, 2014. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay. Are there any corrections or additions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We have two items for consideration. The first is P1, Ordinance 3015, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Jimmy John's Gourmet Sandwiches, at 1241 Chicago Avenue. The Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff recommend adoption of Ordinance 3015, granting a special use permit for a Type 2 restaurant, Jimmy John's Gourmet Sandwiches, in the B1 Business District. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a special use in this district.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we've got, well, I think Alderman Wilson is going to answer that question for you, Alderman Grover.
I am a big fan of Jimmy John's, too. I like Jimmy John's.
We're looking forward to having Jimmy John's in the 3rd Ward.
All right. Any other comments? So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that was for introduction. P2 is Ordinance 154014, the zoning ordinance text amendment, it says, to Chapter 16, off-street parking and loading regarding parking requirements for increased residential density. The Plan Commission and staff recommend adoption of Ordinance 154014 to modify Chapter 16, off-street parking and loading, to establish parking requirements for increase in residential density. That's the number of dwelling units on a property, and that's for introduction. Is there a motion to introduce?
Move approval.
Okay. Mr. Munzer, could you just talk about this just for a moment, and then we'll call on Alderman Rainey?
Of course. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Mark Munzer, Director of Community Development. This is a reference from the Zoning Board of Appeals and also an aldermanic reference. It results from a couple situations where we've run into where the parking code, if you increase the number of residential units on a property, but you don't increase the size of the building, the code as it reads right now does not require you to add additional parking spaces. So for example, we could have a single-family home or a two-family structure that's modified into a 3-unit development, but they don't extend the walls of the building. They keep the same building footprint. There's more residents there, there's more units there, but there's no additional parking requirement onto the property owner. So we started to run into issues where there were community concerns where we were adding residents, adding units, but weren't adding corresponding number of parking spaces. So that's where this comes from. So this would modify that. And whenever you increase units in residential districts outside of the downtown, then the building permit would be the trigger, and then we would require whatever the parking requirement would be for that number of units on that property.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
So that was one example. And how about this example? You have a 3-unit building where the owner, it's an unfinished unit. One of the units is unfinished. It's a ground level garden unit. So it's really only 2 units, paying for 2 garbages and 2, a decision is made to renovate the unused, unfinished unit. It's in a 100-year-old building. It's on a street with only residential parking. There are no garages, no nothing. Does that mean that, how does that person create a parking space?
It would apply.
They're just out of luck, right?
Well, they could apply for a variation with that,
They could,
and they would be able to consider those circumstances and possibly be able to grant that.
Yeah, but what we're doing is we're acing out anybody like that, really. I mean, yes, they can come and get a lawyer and come and argue their case. I think the likelihood, given it's going to be a new amendment, very unlikely. And so for that reason, I think this is very narrow-minded and very narrowly focused, and I don't think you're thinking about opportunities people have to create a unit in their building that is perfectly legal. I mean, there's absolutely nothing illegal about creating this unit. And it just prevents anybody from being creative and adding more housing to the housing stock, and also creating an additional bit of taxes in the tax base. So I'm going to oppose this, and I would hope other aldermen would oppose this. If you're going to add on a unit or add a new floor on and put a, make a single-story resident a two-flat to get more money, et cetera, that's a different story. You're adding to the square footage, and in this case, you're not. And, I understand how plagued people are who have carriage houses in the rear, coach houses in the rear of their homes, but some of us don't have those, but we do have situations like I just explained. And so I'm totally opposed to this amendment. And I don't think it's very well thought out.
Are there any other comments? Okay, this is for introduction to the city council. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay. Then that will move on. We have one person signed up for a citizen comment tonight on a non-agenda item, and that's Ms. Esther. Would you like to come and speak to the committee? I'm sorry, Alderman Holmes?
No, let her go ahead. 'cause
Okay,
I have
fine.
Reference.
I can wait.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Happy New Year to everybody. My name is Betty Esther. I stay at 2031 Church Street. The last meeting in November that was on the agenda item was a discussion of the West Evanston Master Plan and the implementation, and it was up for discussion. I stood up to speak to that, and you said, oh, we won't talk about that until December the 8th. So you did, but unfortunately, I could not be here on December the 8th. At that time, I wanted to remind you, most of you wasn't here, and the people that voted on that was here, they promised us when that got ready to be implemented or any discussion and everything, it would come back out into the community for discussion. That didn't happen. I got a call into one of the aldermen at that time, Alderman Baptiste, and he assured me that that would happen. So I'm calling him to help me stand here and make it happen, or to tell me what all he can bring and stuff. But I'm asking you to bring it back and to the community. I know at that meeting, the issue of Gilbert Park was brought up, and Mrs. Flack said that was a decision and something that was part of the West Side Plan when it was voted on back in 2008. She was correct, it was. But somehow or another, it seemed to have passed by. People had forgot the petition that was submitted saying that we did not want that. The residents and the people around it. We had 160 people to sign that. But nobody really listened to those 160 people. What we got was the day after Christmas, all of a sudden, well, this is the time for you to come to have your meeting. You got to have it, come and say it and quit. And people looked at it, this is a bunch of crap. Why are you rushing me? And stuff. But a few of us did come and we did talk and we did voice our opinion and tell why, and it still happened. But we would like, and we will bring that petition back and get other people to sign to have that conversation. I know politics, you say one thing and then time comes to do it and we forget, or nobody's there taping it or taking notes. But I think we on the west side deserve, and we are kind of demanding, that we get the same opportunity and stuff to talk about our plan. Because it was interesting, the Central Street, their plan came up, they had their meetings and stuff. The community didn't have theirs on the West Side Plan, and we need to have it. I know Alderman Holmes disagreed with that. I respect that for her disagreement. The short meeting and the few times we have brought it up in ward meeting is not really a community meeting. A half an hour or an hour meeting or giving everybody an opportunity to speak is not a community meeting or community hearing.
Ms. Esther, I need you to wrap up.
Okay. So what I'm asking, before you implement the second phase of that Emerson Square project to put in the other, build up the other, as you say, affordable housing, which you have made a corner of affordable housing in that area. You have corner and stuff. That is really not what we was hoping for. That's what we was not promised. And with the NSP, we said we was looking for mixed income and stuff, and that is not happening. So
Ms.
you are
Esther, we really
saying
need to-
that this is the low income section of the Fifth Ward. So we want our meeting.
Thank you very much. Alderman Holmes?
I guess to the parking committee, and based upon this whole thing about parking, it just occurred to me, I had many calls over the holidays about parking on residential streets. And, people now have cars. They may be a two-family, a single-family home, but they may have 3 or 4 cars at that home. But where there are handicap spaces or loading spaces for people who have to be picked up, people park across the crosswalks, and I don't know if we have an ordinance about that, but I know there used to be just a common courtesy thing that you would not park on the, where you have to walk out to get into a car. And I'm just wondering, could the parking committee look into that? Because if we don't have an ordinance or something, that we could help people to understand that when you do that, you prevent a handicapped person from being able to reach if the buses are coming to pick them up or if they need to get to a car. So I hope I'm making that clear. But when this came up, it just occurred to me that I had those calls over the over the holidays about people parking across their crosswalk. So you can't get out of the crosswalk of your house. You walk down your sidewalk and you can't walk out because there's cars parked back to back. So I'd like for the parking committee to look into that. And then I'm going to ask Ms. Esther if she could define what it is that the council promised to get back to. Not tonight, but I would really like to know that because I thought we had answered all of that in the past. And if not, then certainly I disagree that we have not done what we said we were going to do with the West Side Master Plan. And I think that was demonstrated at the meeting that Ms. Jones and Ms. Johanna presented on December 8th, but I'm happy to entertain another meeting if she could define for me exactly what it is that we haven't done that we said we were going to do. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. We've completed our items for consideration. We don't have any items for discussion as far as I'm aware.
No, we do not.
Are there any communications? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. City Council will begin in 10 minutes at 7:45.